now for our next news special report.
Tonight, a chilling revelation rocks the nation. Dozens of illegal immigrants linked to ISIS vanish into America's heartland. Their whereabouts unknown. As this crisis unfolds, we expose the alarming gaps in our border security and watch as DHS Secretary Mayorkas faces tough questions on national television, struggling to explain this unprecedented threat. But that's just the beginning. Stay tuned for my final thought. It's a wake-up call every American needs to hear. This is a special report you cannot afford to miss. Now, folks, before we dive into this critical report on border security, let me tell you about another threat that's sneaking into American homes, skyrocketing AC bills. Just like those ISIS-linked migrants slipping past our defenses, well, these bills are hitting us where it hurts in our wallets. But I found a secret weapon to fight back. It's a mini AC unit. Cools any room in minutes, slashing your bills like we should be cutting illegal entries. Don't let the power companies win. Visit EasySummerCool.com now for up to 60% off with a 60-day guarantee and fast USA shipping. Now back to our urgent special report. So let's get to the heart of the alarming story. NBC News has uncovered a national security nightmare that should have every American on high alert. More than 50 illegal immigrants with ties to ISIS-affiliated smuggling networks are currently at large in our country. Their whereabouts unknown. Now, this is not a far-off threat. It's happening right here and right now. Let's take a look at that NBC report.
Tonight, NBC News has learned more than 50 migrants with potential ties to an ISIS-affiliated smuggling network are at large in America. Many illegally crossed the border and were released into the U.S. by Border Patrol because there was no information suggesting terror ties at the time. Now, their whereabouts are unknown as immigration agents look to arrest them, U.S. officials tell us, saying they're among a group of over 400 migrants DHS identified in the U.S. from Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Moldova, Kyrgyzstan, Georgia, and Russia as subjects of concern because they were brought to the U.S. by an ISIS-affiliated smuggling network, something the FBI director warned about earlier this year.
Some of the overseas facilitators of the smuggling network have ISIS ties that we're very concerned about.
ICE has located and arrested over 150 of the 400 migrants so far, with some already deported from the U.S., officials say, adding authorities are not panicking because their ties to ISIS are not certain, but they're prioritizing their arrest out of an abundance of caution.
The problem is the volume of people coming across the southern border, individuals from ISIS and other affiliated groups have recognized it as a weak point in our defense, and they're using this opportunity to try to sneak in.
NBC News was first to report on a similar arrest of an Uzbek man in Baltimore, whose country alerted the U.S. he was affiliated with ISIS. That man, like the others apprehended so far, was arrested on immigration charges, not terrorism-related charges. ISIS-K has claimed responsibility for deadly terror attacks in Russia and Iran in the past year. And recently, the DHS Inspector General sharply criticizing vetting at the U.S. southern border, saying DHS is at risk of admitting dangerous persons into the country or enabling asylum seekers who may pose significant threats to public safety and national security to continue to reside in the United States. Two senior law enforcement officials told NBC News they are not tracking a terror plot from this group of migrants, but their arrest on immigration charges come out of an abundance of caution. Lester?
All right, Julia. That's right, folks. Over 400 immigrants from Central Asia and elsewhere have been flagged by the Department of Homeland Security as subjects of concern. Some of these individuals are potentially affiliated with an ISIS-linked human smuggling network. This is not just about illegal immigration anymore. We're talking about a potential terrorist threat on American soil. And where is our government in all this? Well, MSNBC's Mika Brzezinski, well, of all places, she took DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to task on Morning Joe. Let's see how he handled those tough questions.
Okay, and in this action, you say it's moving in the right direction. There are two issues here I want to ask you about. The first is NBC News reporting that the Department of Homeland Security has identified over 400 immigrants who have come to the U.S. from Central Asia and elsewhere as subjects of concern, and some even affiliated potentially with an ISIS affiliated human smuggling network. That's number one. And then number two, reporting from NBC News that the administration is still releasing illegal crossers inside the U.S. to live while they pursue asylum claims, that it's not officially really working, and there's still a lot of folks coming through here the way they shouldn't.
Well, if I may correct you in a number of regards. Number one, with respect to the people from Central Asia, we have no evidence that they are individuals plotting to harm the United States. That is inaccurate. It's very important to note that the safety and security of the American people are our highest priority. We screen and vet individuals at the time of encounter. If we learn of derogatory information, we take enforcement action. We are proceeding with extreme caution here in the service of the security and safety of the American people, number one. Number two, the number of individuals whom we've released into immigration enforcement proceedings subsequent to the president's proclamation has dropped significantly. But remember that our detention capacity, and this is not specific to our administration, this has been historic ever since the 90s when I was a federal prosecutor. Our detention capacity is not sufficient to meet the number of people we encounter, and therefore we have to release people into the United States when they are in immigration enforcement proceedings, and we put them on alternatives to detention when that is necessary from an enforcement perspective. And so we have a number of procedures to ensure the safety and security of the American people. Fundamentally, we're operating within a broken immigration system. We need Congress to fix it. Everyone agrees with that. It hasn't been fixed since 1996.
Did you catch that? America's claim they have no evidence these individuals are plotting to harm the United States, but how can they know when they can't even locate them? He also admitted that they're still releasing illegal crossers into our country while their asylum claims are processed. This is happening despite President Biden's recent executive order aimed at limiting daily asylum seekers. Now, the numbers don't lie. We've seen at least 6 million southern border encounters during Biden's presidency. That's not just a statistic. That's a tidal wave of unchecked immigration threatening to overwhelm our communities. So let's break this down. We have ISIS-linked smugglers, hundreds of subjects of concern from Central Asia, and millions of unchecked border crossings. Add to that the arrest of 6 Russian nationals with suspected terrorist ties and a nationwide operation. You've got a recipe for disaster. Mayorkas claims that they are proceeding with extreme caution, but how cautious can you be when you've lost track of potential terrorists? He admits that their detention capacity isn't sufficient, forcing them to release people into the country. Now, this is not just a policy failure. It's a direct threat to every American's safety. The DHS secretary talks about a broken immigration system. But what we're seeing is a broken promise to the American people, a promise to keep us safe, to secure our borders, to put America first. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. The NBC report lays bare a grave threat to our border security and immigration policies. It's a reminder of the dangers we face every day. This is not just a policy failure. It's a potential ticking time bomb. We need to hold the current administration accountable this November at the ballot box. It's time to demand real solutions, not just empty promises. We must act now before one of these illegal crossers launches an attack that could devastate our communities. Our safety and our sovereignty are at stake. This is our country, and we deserve better. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and stay engaged. Let's make sure our voices are heard loud and clear this November. Vote to secure our borders and protect our future, because our republic thrives when we take a stand and demand accountability.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. Now keep up your quest for truth with this next news report. And if you found our channel enlightening, join the millions who agree with you. Tap subscribe. Thank you for watching the Next News Network.